Today is June 5th, 2026. Much to my bewilderment, that means that the Switch 2 has been out for 1 full year. It's been a very conflicting launch year. There's a lot to like, there's a lot to be concerned about. People have opinions all across the board. I myself have gone back and forth from being extraordinarily excited for the release of a new Nintendo console to just getting exhausted. Despite everything though, I wanted to make this video to just put my thoughts on the record. These are the thoughts of someone who is a bona fide Nintendo junkie. This is someone who is going to get the Switch 2 no matter how it launched. What games have I played and picked up? How much time have I given to them? What do I think? We're gonna go totally off the cuff. I'm just gonna talk about my entire year's experience with the console so far and if I'm pleased or not. I like Nintendo. I enjoy Nintendo games, so naturally I am the exact audience for the products Nintendo has been putting out. Take that fact as you will, but I will be speaking purely from the heart and giving my critical opinions where I feel they are due, because there are definitely some to discuss. I was so wide-eyed and giddy on the day that the Switch 2 launched. It was a party, there was confetti, it was so much fun. Price conversations were already starting to pop up on the web. The console price seemed fair enough, but the games were really high, particularly Mario Kart, which gave this air of uneasiness going into the new console's launch. It didn't deter me all that much. It was a little confusing that Mario Kart was $80. Like, I had already kind of braced myself for a new $70 standard, but you know, I'm glad to see that so far Mario Kart is pretty much the only example of an $80 game so far. And you know, there's plenty to talk about with Mario Kart and all the first party titles, but I guess I'll briefly talk about the console itself. It's unbelievable how big these handhelds can get and how heavy they can get, and somehow they're still comfortable to play on. I've never owned a Steam Deck, so I don't have that as a comparison point. I've just been buying Switches as they've been coming out and just having them get increasingly larger with every, you know, couple of years. In fact, I think the majority of my game time on the Switch 2 thus far has been handheld. Battery life has also been pretty much a non-issue. Maybe that has more to do with my own gaming tendencies, but you know, I tend to put in at most like 3 or 4 hours of a game before like I'm ready to put it down. It's been pretty smooth riding. Like, it only tends to run low on battery when I'm done playing for the day. What I'll tend to do, and maybe some of you do the same thing, is when a new game comes out, I'll play it on the TV so I can kind of get that full experience on the big screen. But then later on in the game, as I am like doing collectathon tasks and just working up towards 100%, I'll go handheld and just sort of play while some, you know, video is playing in the background. And both methods of play are still very comfortable. I have not once used the like face camera that I picked up for the Switch 2 welcome tour video. It hasn't really come up again, so I can't speak on how game chat is, nor really the mouse functionalities. I remember giving it a try when Metroid Prime 4 came out, but it just didn't feel great to me. But you know, that's fine by me. I never thought that I'd be converting whole hog to mouse controls anyway. Similar to the 3D slider on the 3DS or HD rumble on the Switch 1, I've gotten pretty accustomed to launch gimmicks that don't end up being a huge part of my life. But the games, those do end up being a big part, so let's start talking about them. Reflecting on my time with Mario Kart World is interesting. I don't think I can call myself a massive Mario Kart guy. I don't have a ton of solo hours with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I think I pretty much played it exclusively with other people in like party settings. If it wasn't for that, I think my hours with Mario Kart 8 would be a lot lower. Similarly, I think that my time with Mario Kart World was extended by how much content I was making at the time. I had done several streams and videos on the game because it was, you know, the big launch title. And I think that boosted the amount of time I spent with this game quite significantly. I did spend a lot of private time just sort of roaming around in my car, looking for P-switch challenges, trying to unlock all the characters. It was really hard to do that. Like, this has been patched at this point. There are easier ways of collecting the obscure racer characters like Fishbone or Dolphin. When the game first launched, it was really hard to do that. So I spent a lot of time roaming around just kind of waiting for an opportunity to unlock these characters. Like, it didn't feel complete for me until I had like the full roster, which was massive. But the game as a whole was very pleasant. Like, I look back on it pretty fondly. It looked really, really nice. It was so buttery smooth. I loved how the carts move and interact with the environment. They're so bouncy, they're so tactile. All of the hours I put into Mario Kart World were basically spent doing this, just sort of racing on the versus tracks, because at the time that was the only way that you could really get access to the plain old Mario Kart courses, and just driving around the big open exploration map and doing little challenges here and there. I didn't really do much knockout tour, if any at all, and I'm not really an online race kind of person. While this was a really nice game to have, I wonder if it had released a little bit later and I had some other Switch 2 games to play, I don't know if it would have been as much of a rush for me, who does not play so much Mario Kart, that I would look at this and be like, oh, that is a must get. It was really smart to bundle this together with the Switch 2. I think most people probably bought their Switch 2s with Mario Kart World bundled with it. I did not, because I'm extra and I really wanted a physical box, so I made the two separate purchases. And, you know, did I get $80 worth of entertainment out of Mario Kart World? I mean, these are all incredibly subjective questions that go from the gamer to gamer. I had a really good time, but I also haven't picked up this game to play in many months. I pretty much bring it along with me when I go to cons, and, you know, sometimes we end up playing Mario Kart together with friends, but that's about as far as it goes. But I did not have to wait too long for more interesting games to come out after this, so I certainly didn't look at Mario Kart World like it was a disappointment in any way. No, the game that I bought a Switch 2 for was 100% Donkey Kong Bonanza. Sure, I would have gotten the Switch 2 anyway, absolutely. But this was the game that when I saw its reveal trailer, I went, that's the game. That's why I'm getting a Switch 2. I need to play that the moment that it comes out. Because it was clear to me right out the gate what this was. Oh, this is the big Nintendo 3D platformer. This is the new 3D Mario. It just, you know, stars Donkey Kong this time, which for me was a even greater selling point. I love Mario. I want to see a new 3D Mario, but like, this is different. This is interesting. Donkey Kong burst onto the scene showing off his new design to mixed receptions. I eventually grew to really enjoy it. Of course, I'm attached to the old rare design, but like, I just really enjoy the expressiveness of this particular DK. And I had never really played a game like Bonanza. I don't think anything exists that plays quite like this. The destruction was just unbelievably fun. You could see me on stream doing it. Like, I could punch the ground all day, every day. That said, I never actually finished Donkey Kong Bonanza. It's been eating at me for so long. Like, it's just been months of me going, oh man, I really want to get back to this sometime. But I've waited far too long. I've since been spoiled on the magnificent ending that this game has. I can only imagine how mind-blowing it would have been if I got to experience that in earnest. But it makes me really wonder, because the legacy and reception that DK Bonanza has had in the year, you know, that followed since its release hasn't been as groundbreaking, no pun intended, as I expected it to be. And I wonder if it has to do with the destruction mechanic. It is sort of a make it or break it kind of mechanic. That's the game's main gimmick. You will be doing it for the entire game. So if you don't find it fun, well, that might make DK Bonanza a tough sell. I'm sure there's also some ripple effect about it being Donkey Kong as the protagonist rather than Mario. I'm sure that has some sort of effect, but like, there's no way, right? But then again, I think back to like days of the GameCube when Luigi's Mansion came out. That was definitely seen as a confusing move. I mean, we love it now. Looking back on it, we're like, what a creative and interesting way to like introduce your new console to the market by being like, no Mario. So perhaps Bonanza will be a game that is appreciated far more, you know, in the years to come rather than right now. It really is a shame about the DLC that eventually came out for Bonanza. This game was like going strong without a single controversy aside from maybe the price. And then the $20 Emerald Rush DLC came out and just spoiled everything. I never got the DLC myself. I figured I should beat the game first, and I never did that. So I can't speak to how good the DLC is, but like, it looks fun. I mean, nothing this game provided to me in my entire time of playing it was not fun. I had a phenomenal time. I think back to why I put the game down, and I think it just has to do with like 2025 got real busy for me in the second half, and it kind of continued all the way up until now. So my gaming time got a lot smaller, hence me still looking back longingly at Bonanza, hoping to give it more of my time. But a worthwhile purchase, absolutely. Like, it's a complete no-brainer. I hope to see a resurgence in DK Bonanza popularity down the line. There were some smaller releases happening around this time too. I mean, there were plenty of Nintendo Switch 2 editions. Both major Switch Zeldas got it. Mario Party Jamboree got it. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and there have been more since. I only messed with a few of these. Like, I liked my time with Kirby, but overall, none have really wowed me yet with the new content. Performance-wise, I definitely feel a lot of these games, you know, come out stronger. There was one instance where I turned on Pokemon Scarlet on my Switch 2, and I got a whiff of that performance, and it was like, oh, this is night and day. There were some smaller games too. Like, I did pick up Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. This was also a very common bullying target for, you know, being $10 and not a pack-in. And yeah, I think it probably would have been smart to have this as a pack-in at the end of the day, but like, I had a really good time with it regardless. It was fun and charming, as was Drag X Drive, perhaps a little less charming, much more exhausting with the control method, dragging your two Joy-Cons across like a table in front of you or your knees. It was certainly fun checking out all these little experiments, but definitely not the sort of thing that took up a ton of my time. I do think, if I'm not mistaken, the next big release was Kirby Air Riders. Talk about a game that I am shocked at its seemingly lack of legacy. This game is perfect. I remember those weeks coming up to launch where like they had those demo weekends and just everyone was saying the same thing, like, oh my God, this game is frantic. This game is crazy. This game is fast. I think there was a little bit of racing fatigue between Mario Kart World. I think Sonic had a racing game around this time, and Kirby came to bat last. So I think there was sort of this like, you know, it's probably a similar experience. But anyone who has picked up this game knows that Kirby Air Riders is a different beast entirely. Masahiro Sakurai exclusively makes bangers. You know, he doesn't leave a single detail left unchecked. Every way you could possibly want to play this game, you can do it. It's content rich. There's a huge amount of variety as to how you can play each game mode. There's a weird, ominous story mode. Like, I wouldn't have it any other way. And this is the only Switch 2 game so far that I've really messed around with online. City Trial Online is a wild experience that I can only recommend. There's a lot to learn about how each of the machines operate and what are the best like power-ups to look for. It can be humbling to receive a minigame at the end that you've never seen before, and you just kind of have to hope and pray. But this was so much fun. This was so much fun. I am excited to see what Kirby does next on the Switch 2. Like, I'd love to see a new, like, full proper Kirby game rather than this spin-off, but this is so clearly not necessarily like the next step for Kirby. This was the next step for Sakurai. This is something that he wanted to make, and I think after all that he has done for the gaming scene, he has more than earned it. And he gave us something that, if you give it the chance, it's a wonderful time. Ironically, though, out of all the games I've talked about so far, Mario Kart, Bonanza, Air Riders, the game that I would end up putting more time in than all of those was Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. This game didn't get a whole lot of attention, either from the good or the bad. I think it's just enough of a distant spin-off from Zelda that the usual like hate crowd were like, we're not gonna touch that. There's nothing to gain from bullying Hyrule Warriors, which was great because I finally got to play a Switch 2 game in peace, and this was full is the word that I would use. This was a full experience. I knew that going in because I had played Age of Calamity, and I remember that basically taking away a month of my life, and Age of Imprisonment ended up doing basically the same thing. Tears of the Kingdom is a mixed bag story-wise, but some of the stuff that I absolutely loved was seeing Zelda being thrusted back in time, meeting Rauru, and just like this whole ancient Hyrule world where it's in a much more healthy state. It was great spending time with this particular set of characters, meeting the sages and actually seeing their faces and learning who they are. That was delightful. And like the gameplay Dynasty Warriors type loop, you know, it's not going to be for everyone. I don't even 100% know if it's for me. There was a point where I felt myself stopping to actively engage with the gameplay, and it got to a point where I could just sit back, handheld, kind of go through all these little side quest missions, destroy hordes of bokoblins in front of me without really giving it too much attention. But I would really end up doing that for a very long time. I think I put about 50 or 60 hours into this, and I'm sure that there are people who have put far more than that. I even think that there was a point where I almost didn't pick this up. I was like, well, out of all the Switch 2 games upcoming, this is probably the one that I can skip, but I'm glad that I didn't, because it ended up being really great, and the first Switch 2 game that I would really feel like I played to the fullest and reached the end and saw the credits, which was very satisfying. Pokemon Legends ZA. Let's talk about this one. I gotta say that this like trio of Hyrule Warriors, Legends ZA, and Metroid Prime 4 all happening back to back. It has been a long time since I have felt that swamped with long games to play. Like by the time Prime 4 came out, I wasn't done with either Hyrule Warriors or Pokemon. I certainly wasn't feeling any shortage of gaming to do. That's what I'll say. But ZA, thinking back on it, I did really like it, though there are lots of things that I wish it did differently. I think overall I enjoyed Legends Arceus slightly more. The vibe of being this gremlin in the wild, you know, hunting down these wild creatures, throwing berries, as well as the like cell shading past creative direction. And the stakes felt really high. Like Pokemon were coming for me. Like I never really experienced that before. Legends ZA was a different flavor, which, you know, I respect that to a certain degree. You know, rather than just being Legends Arceus again, it was really determined to be its own thing. And I like setting that precedent for the Legends spin-off franchise now. I do think that the game is possibly the best looking Switch Pokemon game. Pokemon and graphics have been at war at each other since this console's release. It's a huge step up from Scarlet and Violet, and that's not even a competition. The game looked fine, I think, and it looked so lived in. I think that's what took me the most by surprise. It felt like you were really taking a Pokemon city on any map and just zooming in with a microscope. These people walking around are all living a life here. They all got Pokemon that are helping them do their like daily chores and at their places of work. I felt like I was interacting with like a living Pokemon world, and like that, there's something to really say about that. Trainer battling was not really a thing in Legends Arceus. I mean, you definitely did it a couple of times for story purposes, but ZA, it's like the main event, and you do it a lot. So it's a good thing that it's really snappy and you go through battles like in under a minute's time. But similar to Bonanza, like if you don't like the gameplay loop of doing these quick battles, I could see how this would not be a Pokemon game for you. The story left a bit to be desired as well. Like I really love Legends Arceus' story, and again, that really like dangerous tone that it carried throughout. I liked some of the individual characters that ZA introduced. Like I like Jacinth, I like Corbeau. Even our like main squad, I ended up liking them enough. But the more time I spent with them, the more I wish that like we could just push them a little bit further in the realm of interest. The new Mega designs were such a mixed bag, which honestly makes them fit right in with Mega designs of the past. Like it'd be unbelievable if they were all 10 out of 10, right? We gotta have some stinkers. My biggest gripe with the game comes from not my experience, but the experience of some of my friends. A lot of them hadn't played Pokemon X and Y and were not familiar with which Pokemon could or could not Mega Evolve. I designed my team so that my whole squad, you know, had Megas, either old Megas or new Megas. But some of my friends had more mixed teams where maybe 3 out of their 6 Pokemon just did not have Mega Evolutions. And they had a very different experience than me. There's certainly a bias towards the Pokemon in this game that can Mega Evolve. If you're using a Pokemon that can't, you're just on a flat out disadvantage. And I can see how that can completely color, you know, someone's experience. And my other gripe would be the DLC. I did pick up Mega Dimension and I put a bunch of time into it, and it was not pleasant. Out of everything I've experienced on my Switch 2 so far, I think the least pleasant thing has been Mega Dimension. I'm a big Pokedex completion kind of guy. Before I'm doing anything else, I just want to collect all of the Pokemon that are currently available to me. But these randomly generated portals that I only get to spend like a couple minutes tops in, not a helpful mechanic for Pokedex completion. To this day, I still haven't done it, and it still kind of irks at me. But I don't want to go back. However, despite all of those things, I did still enjoy Legends ZA. I put a ton of time into it. I did beat the main story anyway. It was fun. It was genuinely really fun. And I'm so glad that this game also released on Switch 1. I don't know how long Nintendo is going to be supporting the Switch 1 alongside the 2, but for Pokemon especially, I think it's a great idea to have split it between both consoles. Though speaking of games split between 2 consoles, I guess I should talk about Metroid Prime 4. Talk about a game with a lot of nuanced points to discuss. I don't think the 7 years of development wait time did us any favors. I think we ended up putting this game on quite a pedestal, and perhaps that was our undoing. I played and 100% completed Metroid Prime 4, and I enjoyed my time with it for lots of reasons. I even played the entire Metroid Prime trilogy leading up to it. I had never played 2 or 3 before, so I found myself very ready to analyze Prime 4 and compare it to its predecessors. And for lots of reasons, I was happy, and for lots of reasons, I was conflicted. Graphically, the game looked unbelievable. Like, I don't think that matter is up for debate. And the, like, typical Prime gameplay is just wonderful. It felt so good to be Samus again and exploring these strange alien environments. I liked where we were going. I liked the very purple and psychic theme that this game had from top to bottom. These weird psychic aliens giving Samus psychic powers. It's the sort of thing that, like, using psychic to open a door, it's not much different than just using my laser to open a door, but like, it feels cool, you know? It gives this game an identity that's different from the rest. Putting Samus in a sleek red suit and putting her on a motorcycle No notes, like that's just wonderful. However, traveling the barren sands of Soul Valley, collecting green crystals ad nauseum, there could have been some changes to this, I feel. I get the vibes of isolationalism. I get this being sort of a giant hub area to connect all of the more dungeony parts of the game, but it really was just very, very big, and there was not a lot to do in it. I was informed to start collecting green crystals as soon as I could and do it often throughout my gameplay experience, because there were already some warnings in the grapevine that if you don't engage with this mechanic and you leave it all to the very end, you will be collecting for a very, very long time. I heeded this advice, yet I still found myself collecting lots and lots of green crystals by the end. It didn't end up completely ruining my experience. I mean, again, it was just the perfect kind of gameplay to like lay back and play handheld while I've got some videos playing in the background. It was a pretty passive gaming experience, just driving around. No music is crazy. I got the amiibo, so I'm fortunate enough that I didn't have to worry about that, but imagining playing everything I did without music is obscene. And the story, I wasn't expecting anything so groundbreaking, but I wish we had a bit more bravery. The story felt very safe, and I don't know if I have any answers to any of the questions I had before I started the game. I won't go too deep into spoilers, but with the primary villain of the game, Silux, who in all the build-up that he got in the trailers, I personally was not too moved by his story. The Federation members met throughout the game. I mostly found them harmless. Miles MacKenzie really ruffled a lot of feathers at the time, but he was fine. I did wish that he would stop trying to tell me where to go, but like, I'm not gonna let something so pedantic as that like ruin my gaming experience, you know? I enjoyed exploring these environments. I always enjoy going for 100% in Metroid games, just looking around, exploring every nook and cranny. The music was really fantastic. I still listen to a lot of those tracks today, and I am very happy that Prime 4 has now come out, and we no longer have to live in a reality where we're constantly asking, where's Metroid Prime 4? I don't really know where we go from here, however. Prime 4 was just not the home run I feel that Samus deserved after all this time. Do we now wait another decade for Prime 5, or are they gonna go in a totally different direction? It's all up in the air right now, and that's always scary. But I am happy to have finally played this game. I'm happy that it exists. I'm happy that it came out and it didn't just get canceled and we were left wondering what could have been. And again, I'm happy that Switch 1 players got to enjoy it as well, although I've not seen this game running on a Switch 1 yet. How is that? Because I can only wonder. That is where 2025 came to a close. As for games in 2026, we started with Mario Tennis Fever, and I will be completely transparent and say I skipped this one. It is no fault on Mario Tennis Fever. I'm sure that this game is a heck of a lot of fun. I played Mario Tennis Aces, and I liked it, but it just seemed like if I was gonna say no to one game, tennis felt like a safe bet. I hope to pick it up someday and give it a shot. I want to check out that story mode. I want to see Baby Wario and Waluigi. After Fever released, Nintendo started to introduce more variable pricing on their games, and it is sort of a shame that Tennis Fever just missed that boat, because I wonder how well this game would have done if it was not $70. I think out of all the $70 games we've spoken of today, this one was the hardest sell. But to instead talk about games that I played, and I played a lot, Pokopia, man. Oh my goodness. It's like, okay, on paper, everything about Pokopia seemed like it would be a grand slam. It's Pokemon and it's Animal Crossing. Oh, this game was gonna make $1 billion. But despite knowing that it was gonna be like a financial success and many people were gonna pick it up, I just couldn't get a beat on how good it was going to be. I didn't know if it would really get its hooks in me. I'm still playing it. Like right now, I'm still playing Pokopia. This game feels bottomless. It's so charming. The Pokemon are delightful to speak to. You know that thing people say about New Horizons? That the villagers all just sort of feel stale. They all end up just kind of saying the same things. The Pokemon in Pokopia are so full of personality. And the tone, like, I could never have guessed that this was going to be so apocalyptic. I keep finding notes scattered around about the humans and like the terrible tragedy that occurred. All of this in my comfy, cozy building farming game. What a surprise treat. And this game really was the first time I felt that the Switch 2 had a just factual hit on its hands, because games were either controversial like ZA or Metroid, or just didn't sell enough people to be able to spend the $70 like Bonanza or Air Riders. But this one really felt like everyone was playing it, and I completely understand why. Pokopia is delightful. I'm excited to get back to it the minute I'm done talking into this microphone. Nintendo should be very proud of this game, and I don't know what will come of it, what new content will be added. There's events sometimes. My only hope is that keeps up and doesn't end up being kind of dropped like New Horizon did. Ditto deserves constant support and constant attention. And this is honestly the final Switch 2 game that I have played. We've had 2 more games come out after that. Tamagotchi Life, Living the Dream, technically a Switch 1 game, but I consider any main game release at this point to be part of the new Nintendo current modern legacy. I did pick up Tamagotchi Life, but I have not put it into my Switch 2 as of yet. I just think that this isn't my thing. Maybe I'm just not funny enough. I remember watching Nintendo Directs and constantly seeing posts like, please, please, please give us Tamagotchi on the Switch. And I'd sit there baffled, like, what? Is this a bit? What is it about this game? I didn't know, but after seeing the first week of Living the Dream being out and seeing what people were doing, I went, oh, I get it. It's the meme game. It's about making Miis of Shrek and Light Yagami and watching them fall in love. It's about making a Mii of yourself and watching you have a crush on the most problematic character on your island. And at that point, I was like, okay, I get this game's MO. Personally, I don't have the patience to make these beautiful artistic Miis, nor do I have much reason to throw them all into a building and watch them all fight and fall in love. I just don't think I got the time for that. But it has led to a lot of wonderful clips, wonderful streams, wonderful moments. And it seems like this game's been a hit too. I don't know if it's on Pokopia levels of success, but it's a lot more successful than I thought it was gonna be. I'm thrilled that it seems to be exactly what Tamagotchi Life fans were hoping for. And yeah, maybe someday I will give it a shot. Let me know if based on everything I said, if you still recommend it. Because if I am missing out on a gem, I do want to know. And then as of today, the final Switch 2 game released is Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. I have not picked it up yet, but I really would like to. My Yoshi experience is not extensive. I played a lot of Woolly World, I played a bit of Crafted World, and I played Yoshi's Island, the original, on stream a little while back. I get it, you roam around, do little platforming puzzles, collect flowers. So I was like, maybe I'll skip on Mysterious Book, but the more I hear about it, the more intrigued I get. It seems to be kind of swerving from the typical Yoshi formula. We're like observing the enemies in their natural habitats and like making notes of what they do and how they interact with us and the environments around them. What a unique concept. And I want to live in a world where we reward video games for taking weird swings like this. I do want to pick this up, and I do want to give it a shot. I wonder if I would have already picked it up if it were not 70, but that's sort of the thing. It's like this dark aura that surrounds all conversations regarding Switch 2, and it's been so unfortunate. I've been doing my best to keep the flame of my love for Nintendo and love for the Switch and love for these games alive, but the daily controversies and conversations have definitely tuckered me out. I think I'm just on Twitter too much. But since I've sort of taken a step away from that, I've been able to kind of revitalize how much I am interested in these games, and I can't wait to give Yoshi a shot, as well as the few upcoming Switch 2 games that we know about. I believe the next one coming out is Star Fox. I never got a chance to talk about this one, so I'll talk about it here. First of all, I think it's a lot easier to digest just knowing it was a surprise release that is coming out incredibly soon. Like, the reveal was only a few weeks ago, and it's coming out in a few weeks. That sort of short wait time definitely makes it easier to talk about this game without so many harsh feelings, you know? It is another remake of Star Fox 64, and that is depressing. I love these characters. I want to see them expanded and the story moved forward in like any conceivable way. I keep going back and forth on the realism style. Sometimes I find it a bit uncanny and kind of looking, you know, like fan remake Unreal Engine 5 sort of thing. But then other times, especially like just during gameplay, seeing the ships flying around, I'm like, that looks incredible. And I'm excited to see all the cutscenes and the banter. The voice acting has yet to amaze me. I'm gonna have to see it in action, but knowing that we're gonna see stuff like the origins of, you know, the disaster that happened to James McCloud, it's easy to forget that like that's an event that has really only been alluded to in previous games. You've never really seen it. So that is all stuff to be excited about. And, you know, Star Fox hasn't gotten any love for so long. It is nice to see Star Fox again, even if it's not in the form that I necessarily would have chosen myself. I think the only thing I'm upset about is that it's called Star Fox. I wish it had a subtitle of any kind, because now we're just gonna have to call it Star Fox 26 for the rest of time. But yeah, I'm happy for Fox. I will be picking this up. Hopefully it's got a lot more content than it looks. Star Fox 64 is not a long game, which might start bringing up price conversations again, but it remains to be seen. I think Rhythm Heaven Groove comes out after that. I love Rhythm Heaven, so of course I'm happy to see another Rhythm Heaven. We know so little about this game though that it's kind of hard to be hype. I love how even though we've seen so little footage, we've already seen enough to see that there have been changes. Like, I think there's been 2 trailers, and trailer B has already shown redesigns of sequences from trailer A. That's bizarre. And it's also coming out soon. Like, all these games, Yoshi, Star Fox, like, these are all coming out so quick after one another, which, hey, I guess I'd rather eat a bunch of strange meals that I don't know how to feel about over starving. So, you know, hard to say right now how Rhythm Heaven Groove is going to be, but I am excited for it nonetheless. Splatoon Raiders, though, this is my jam. I am so excited for this. I love Splatoon to pieces. I love Deep Cut. It's so great that Deep Cut is going to be getting some attention here. You know, Splatoon 3's DLC was all about Off the Hook, and the Squid Sisters won the Grand Festival. It feels like they've been undermined in every turn. So seeing a whole spin-off dedicated entirely to Deep Cut, I love that. Personally, I can't wait to spend more time with them. I love that this is Splatoon's first spin-off. I hope that there's a ton of story in it, like the story modes of Octo Expansion and Side Order. I loved them both so much. So I can't wait to see what that's about, what other interesting like survival aspects there may be. And I mean, Salmon Run always hits. It's definitely the mode that I played the most of in Splatoon. I mentioned it in my previous video about Splatoon 1. I love Turf War, but I get my butt kicked so thoroughly that it's hard to spend a lot of time playing Turf War. So a game in which I just get to play Salmon Run and experience fun cutscenes and story details, that feels like it's made just for me. And that's not even all that far away either. Like, if you're playing Nintendo and you're interested in a wide berth of Nintendo games and are willing to expand out to some of the lesser franchises, you're eating good, man. There's a lot to play. We even got some more games that are coming out in the eventual future that we don't know a lot about. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave was announced, but we don't know a thing about it beyond its initial trailer. It's definitely due to arrive eventually. I can believe that it will come out somewhere in the second half of 26. I'm a Fire Emblem guy. I think I can comfortably admit that. I've played a number of the games and not all of them have been my cup of tea, but overall, I enjoy the gameplay loop quite a bit. And I've really enjoyed a lot of the characters that the series has introduced me to. So I will certainly be picking up Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave when it eventually comes out. And finally, in a million years, Pokemon Winds and Waves will come out. It's really tough to know what this game is going to be like right now, but all I can say is that I like the starters. I'm definitely going to pick Brout, and no matter what, it's going to be Pokemon, and I've been playing Pokemon since longer than I can remember, so I'm going to have a good time no matter what. But that's everything that the Switch 2 has given us, pretty much, here in the first year. I mean, that's not even talking about a bunch of third-party games that I haven't really dipped my toe in. Indies and ports of like AAA games. Like, you can play Resident Evil 9 on your Switch 2. You can play Cyberpunk on your Switch 2. I gotta try one of those one of these days and see how the Switch 2 handles that. It's great to see Nintendo kind of dipping its toes into, you know, the modern AAA space, and now having a Nintendo console doesn't mean that you necessarily can't play those games. I'm sure they might not be as well optimized as like a super powered PC, but it's just great that the option is there. Game key cards are a thing, of course, and that has its own problems. And that's just kind of been the mood of the Switch 2 here in its first year. It feels like every pro comes with a con. Every attempt to get excited comes with someone ready to knock the basketball out of your hands before you take a shot. It's exhausting, and I am glad that I've kind of stepped away from the scene and have just been enjoying my time with the Switch 2. I definitely don't regret my purchase, and I can't wait to see what comes next for it. And regardless of the negative opinions surrounding the console, it is selling like gangbusters. So it's great to see that the console is still a success. There are insane people out there claiming that this is like a Wii U level disaster. These are not the same thing at all. This is coming from someone who loved the Wii U, by the way, because it's year one, and you want to know what I got, sitting behind me right now? A pile of games. A pile of games that I've played, I've put a ton of time into, and I've been enjoying myself. Plus, this is kind of unrelated, but like, can we talk about the return of Amiibo? We've been getting some crazy cool Amiibo this past year. It's nice to see, after they were kind of abandoned for a long time, that they've come back in a really big way. But okay, I've been talking for a while. I hope that my perspective has been interesting to listen to. And if you're like me and you've been enjoying your Switch 2 immensely, I'm happy to inform you that you're not alone. And amidst the sea of hateful voices, there are plenty of us out there just having fun. You let me know what Switch 2 games you are playing, what games you liked, what games you didn't like, what games you're hoping to see announced in the far near future. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me for all these years that I've been, covering Nintendo stuff. I've covered a lot of the Switch 2's early life, and I'm excited to cover more in the future. Until that day comes, happy birthday, Nintendo Switch 2, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.